welcome to the 5th episode on the season of the Ranger Football Report. I'm Noah Casa.
And I'm Joel Geist.
And back for another one, recapping week 4, looking on to week 5 here. Joel, our Forest Lake Rangers played Woodbury. We knew it was going to be a fun game. Didn't think it was going to get as lopsided as it did. But nevertheless, a big win for the Rangers.
Big win for the Rangers. I expected Woodbury to maybe put up a touchdown or two late. And unfortunately, my over-under score suffered because of that. That was, ton of drama in the ending of the game.
Keeping the shutout.
52 to nothing.
51
to nothing. And they were about ready to kick a field goal. And
Rangers weren't having that one.
And the Ranger wrecking crew wasn't having that. And it got blocked. And so
it was the weekend of block kicks amongst
Right.
all disciplines of football.
Right.
High
NFL.
school, college, NFL. Lots of block kicks this weekend. So go over some offensive wins, losses for the Rangers.
Offensive win. I'm just going to say the offensive line.
I was going to say, I don't think we have too many losses to cover.
The offensive line, first and foremost, they were making holes for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. And it didn't matter if it was the starters or the guys that came in relief. They were making holes that you could drive a diesel through, and Diesel definitely did make it way through as a couple of those holes.
100%. Yeah. Mac went off on his comeback game, 106 yards and a touchdown. Drago, 51 yards and a touchdown. And Richley, 43 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, and then Anders Peterson, only 3 yards, but he rushed for a touchdown there at the end of the game. Lots of rushing touchdowns in this one, and a few through the air as well as Connor. I mean, obviously, we've talked about it a few times, not throwing it a whole lot this season, but still keeping those passing stats very much higher than I think a lot of people thought, not necessarily because of Connor, but just high school football.
Right.
It's not often you get a quarterback to come in and throw 30 for 38, 320, and 5 touchdowns in a season to start out halfway through the year.
Right. And the biggest thing is like a lot of teams are selling out to stop the run,
Mm-hmm.
which they still can't do. And then that makes those, high percentage passes a lot easier. I was saying that, through these games that like Woodbury and Park last week, we might see a little bit more offense and a little bit more airing it out. And he has been passing a few more times. But
that whole first drive was pass.
But his efficiency hasn't really gone down that much. So it is a thing where like on those scripted plays on that first drive,
yeah,
they think you're going to come out and run. So they always got to be ready for it. So like you can pass effectively 3 or 4 times on it before like, whoa, hey, we got to slow this down and this is what we got to switch to. So
well, it's also fun getting to the point now with the way Connor's throwing the ball and being so decisive with it that, when we get to a 3rd and long, in past years, it's been a little bit of a situation where you go, oh boy, we're going to have to pass. I think when Zeidler was playing, we had a decent amount of faith in his arm that he was going to make the correct throw.
Mm-hmm.
But historically, that hasn't been the case. And having a quarterback like Connor, where we faced a few 3rd and mediums, 3rd and longs, and the ball was delivered right where it needed to be. And the other biggest thing, 38 attempts, 30 completions, that means we got 30 receivers all catching the ball. We have not had many dropped passes this year.
Right.
We've had a couple, but a lot of them have been good, strong catches in situations that we need them. And, I mean, that touchdown to Savageau, just the throw is impressive. But
Dropped it right in the bucket.
Well, and him catching it over his shoulder, defender not draped all over his back, but in close coverage,
right,
and then even getting 2 feet inbounds, not just the one.
Yep.
It was an impressive play all around. And then, I mean, it seems like Rayfield is either
I was just going to say
Connor one long ball and a touchdown just about every other game at least.
I was going to say Connor should have at least 3 more passing touchdowns because Rayfield has been a deep pass and down at the 1 or 2 yard line like 3 or 4 times this season. He's had super big explosive plays. He's just gotten really unlucky.
He gets drugged down at the 2.
He gets drugged down at the 2 or the 1 yard line most of the time. So,
but we've seen him get those goal line, the pop passes a couple of times this year to kind of make up for that. But I mean, regardless, averaging 16.4 yards a reception is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
especially in high school, your air yards. And the thing is like his aren't yards after the catch. Like you could say that, maybe like Westman runs a ton of screens. Mac runs a ton of screens. Drago also catches screens. Like their yards per reception, a lot of that is based on yards after catch, how many yards there is. But Rayfield's are basically strict air yards. And his depth of target, which is pretty deep for mostly, maybe the only other one that's just as deep is Savageau.
And Savageau's is 13 yards per reception. And the one disappointing thing is Rayfield's stats should look a little bit better because one of those passes that fell incomplete was an open shot that Connor just overthrew to the goal line, which would have been nice to have. I believe that was the Prior Lake game, I want to say. Either Prior Lake or Anoka. It was one of those first 2 games, which would have made either one of those games a little bit less close at the end and taking some stress out of us at the end of the game. But nevertheless, it's a lot more fun. Much as I hate to admit it, it's more fun calling a close game than it is the blow. I love watching the blowouts, but trying to come up with material for 4 quarters and during one of those games can get a little tough towards the end.
And for all the fans at home, I'm sure it was kind of nice getting a Vikings game like that too, where you can just sit back and relax and you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. Like there's a time and a place for those games for sure.
Right.
And I'm glad that we've gotten a couple of them back to back to give my heart a rest.
Yeah, the cardiac arrest
the cardiac
Rangers,
kids
are a bit on vacation right now, and defensively, you pitch 2 shutouts in a row, and that is a solid. No matter who you play, to pitch 2 shutouts back to back is very rare. And this defense, you have to get hats off to Howie and the crew, and also our linebacking crew. I've said this the last couple of weeks, but our linebacking crew has definitely come into their own. And
100%.
I mean, they are pursuing also along with the back edge pursuit, they're sealing the edge so they can't get those runs up the sidelines. And that's, our rushing yardage is, I mean, most teams are a running team, and just in high school in general. And Anoka kind of gashed us a little bit. We thought that they were going to come out and run it, and our defense held, but it was the bend but don't break. So it was, hold them on a couple of drives, and they're going to get a couple in. It was also a game scheme that we weren't going to be used to, but these last 2 games, like you kind of know that they're going to be running it, and our linebackers really pinned their ears back and just let them have it.
Going off of that point, looking at the stats, going into the Park Cottage Grove game pregame, I talked about us having a 3-headed monster at defense with Cullen Christensen, Howie Johnson, and Drago. And it reflects nothing on Drago. He's been fantastic the entire season. However, all of a sudden those 3 for total tackles, sacks, everything, those 3 were at the top of the stats. Now we flip it over to total tackles here after the last 2 games, and Brooks Roan, Derek Loomis, and AJ Dagerstrom are both up there. Schleif up there as well. But talking about the linebackers, I mean, Drago still with double-digit total tackles, taking nothing away from him. There's been 4 or 5 players that have jumped him in the stats for tackles, and it just goes to show you that, like you were saying, the linebacking crew, something has happened in these last 2 weeks that it's not just Cullen flying around and filling every gap. Everybody has their own gap, and it goes to the stats. We'll get into this a little bit more against White Bear, or when we get into the White Bear talk, but right now through 4 games, the Ranger defense is only giving up on average 60 yards a game on the ground, which that's for, like you just said, a lot of teams in high school run the ball more than they pass the ball. And to have a defense that's stopping teams, even with that Anoka game and even a little bit of the Prior Lake game with stronger running attacks, to average only giving up 60 yards a game is crazy. And then on the flip side, the Rangers are averaging 242 rushing yards against their opponents.
And that's with Mac being out for
2 of the games.
2.5 games.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I mean...
So, and the other thing is like we were talking about Drago, his production as far as tackles go, they've been platooning a lot now.
Yeah.
With Mac being out, that forced Drago to play both ways, get a lot of snaps, so, maybe more than, and he's probably feeling a little dinged up. And last week, Aiden Waslick was my up and coming player of the game, that or next man up award is what we called it. So Aiden Waslick has also come in and started to fill a lot of that role. So now you can platoon all of those linebackers. So it comes, second quarter, third quarter, you can send in 2 or 3 new linebackers that are fresh and are completely capable and more than competent to run the defense and hold the edge, and great at tackling. You had Aiden Waslick and Cullen Christensen, Degerstrom, and Loomis. All of those guys started to really come on in the last couple of weeks. And this week we had somebody else in that crew. We had Vince Chavez come in, number 15. He kind of came in as the game got a little bit out of hand, and he was flying around making tackles. He had a fumble recovery on one of the special teams, and then he had I believe he had I don't know if it was a sack, or he had a solid pressure on a ball that almost got picked off. I'm really looking forward to seeing this whole team come into their own, and every week it seems like we have another person, stepping up and making plays. And if something were to happen, knock on wood, we don't want any injuries, but I really feel that this defense is in a solid spot, that you can
getting
make
better throughout the season.
You can make a deep run. You are getting better through the season, and you're getting stronger as a roster. You might lose 1 or 2 guys, but all of those guys are getting playing time, and I really commend Brad Beeskow for allowing those players to come in and see what they have on the offensive line, on the defensive line, in as linebackers and corners. It's something that we know our first team is solid, but in the last 2 weeks, we've really seen what a lot of those other guys can do.
Yeah, well, and you want to talk about Waslick for a second, just sorting the stats by tackles for loss. He's now number 3 in stats with 4 tackles for loss. He's getting a lot of production in total tackles, but not only that, 4 of his 6 tackles have been behind the line of scrimmage, which is huge. And then he's got a sack on there as well. We've seen Howie's stats with sacks jump up dramatically this last couple weeks with 10 tackles for loss now. He's 4 sacks on the season. We're playing a lot of defense behind the line of scrimmage.
Right. And another thing that's not on these stat sheets is total pressures. And the pressures is kind of like a college and an NFL stat, not really in high school, but the amount of plays that Howie and this linebacking crew are disrupting, just because like sometimes Howie's staying home and sometimes the other side, the opposite side backer is just on a straight rush. And they've been doing a really solid job of watching the option and that mesh, that run pass option, making sure that the back is either in blocking mode or past where he can get a handoff. And if he is getting a handoff, a lot of times he's getting met right in the backfield.
Well, and that's what I was going to say with Howie. A stat that isn't recorded is the amount of times he's been getting blocked, sticks an arm out there, and maybe doesn't make the tackle, but significantly slows up the running back or the quarterback. They break free, and the rest of the Ranger wrecking crew comes in and makes a tackle in the backfield. Because, I mean, I don't know. It's like beating a dead horse at this point with the amount of times that we have to say a host of Rangers makes the tackle in the backfield, or the entire force-like defense in on the tackle. They're swarming to the ball, and yeah, it's just been a lot of fun football to watch over the last 2 weeks. 100%.
And Tamakung
I was just about to get to that.
He just missed an interception.
I didn't have time. I wanted to see so bad if there's anybody else that's got as many picks as he does in the section so far, but I'll have that for you guys on Friday.
And in that first podcast, if you want to go back and check our things, I was expecting big things. I was expecting big things from Tamakung, and he has delivered. There was a pass interference call that was a little bit ticky-tack. It looked like it could have gone either way. Most of the time, you're probably going to say it's good coverage, but when it's 51-0, you're probably, all right, let's see if they can put something on the board. And I'm not saying that was, a mercy call or anything, but it is one of those things where you think about it. You're like, yeah, let's just, let's give them a chance to play.
But see, that's where I differ a little bit with just some of the high school stuff is, in situations like that, letting them play a little bit. And we've seen a ton of referees do that. Throughout our years. That was just one of those ones that it was the other side and they felt the need to throw the flag. Regardless, I'd love to make him see that play, or I'd like to see him make that play 10 out of 10 times, because I don't know out of 10 times that play happens how many times a flag gets pulled, because that was pretty sharp defense from our cornerback down there.
And it's one of those things where every time like somebody can make a super great play and you're like, great play, don't ever do it again.
Yeah.
That one is bad outcome, keep doing it.
Well, and especially in high school, because we never want penalties to get called. But say he woes up and doesn't do that, and that catch is brought in, that was like a 35-yard gain that it was only a 15-yard penalty from the line of scrimmage. I'll take that all day over a huge gain, maybe even a touchdown if he breaks the tackle.
And the thing is like it wasn't even blatant. It was basically his arm was draped a little bit on the side of him, and he went back to look, and I think it was more just a balance thing where he went and put his hand up and was looking back at the ball. So like if you could say, well, he was definitely looking for the ball, which is essentially fair game, but I don't know if we couldn't see the other side of his hand, if like maybe he grabbed a little bit of the jersey on the other side.
I was going to say that is going back, like when we're up in the booth, we're a bit more emotional on game days. We can only see what happens on the field. And then if we get the replay, we get those 2 seconds to look at the replay real quick. So we are quick to jump to assumptions. Going back and looking at it with that, I mean, is it textbook defense in the way that they teach you to defend a pass? Yeah, have your hand back to be able to complete the tackle after you try and defend the ball. But I guess if I was the back judge, I could potentially see how you could say his arm was up on that front arm and kind of twisted his shoulders a little bit. But I mean, we talked to him after the game. He was pretty. He thought it was clean defense. So I'm going to take his word for it. And again, I think situationally,
but every player is going to say that.
100%.
I mean, come on. I mean, of course it was clean. I got all ball.
100%. I'd like to see him make that play. And then another big play throughout the game. We talked about the missed interception, which, credit to him after the game. We totally thought two players collided, and we're joking around about that. And he was very quick to say, "No, that one's on me. Hit me right in the chest. Should have had it." But his interception in the first quarter, that was a pretty athletic and awareness play to the receivers right in front of him. He's there for the tackle. He sees the ball come out of his hand, the quarterback's hand, knows it's not going to be near the receiver, and was able to just lay out and make a play on the ball. It was another fantastic play by him, and I can't wait to see his progression throughout the next 4 games and into the playoffs.
Yeah, and
I think he's getting more confident with every game.
Right, like the first one, his very first one against Prior Lake was just kind of a hey, I found it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
yeah.
I found it. And now, like, and even Caleb, when he was talking about it, Caleb said he's, more of a receiver in 7-on-7. He definitely has ball skills.
100%.
And now he's trying to. It looks like he's melding the coverage and what I can do to make those turnovers, because, like, especially those turnovers in the opponent's, in the opponent's 50, that swings the game huge.
100%.
Just
position, everything.
Yep.
But yeah, I think him doing what he's doing in 7-on-7 has helped him a lot as a corner, because we saw that a lot from Connor last year. Connor, the entire 7-on-7 season, they're both on traveling 7-on-7 teams, big time 7-on-7 stuff. Connor played most of his time on offense as a receiver, but played almost no receiver for the Rangers on game nights. And I think being able to play receiver, you kind of get to know how a receiver thinks, how a receiver works, body movement, little tells in route running that you can then transfer over as a corner,
right,
in a game situation and just be a better defender.
Right, and we've seen it at all levels, even in college and now the NFL. You got a kid like Travis Hunter doing amazing things for Jacksonville. Is he going to play both ways? Who knows? But you know what? One skill does seem to make the other skill better.
Well, and I think 100% on that, and it goes both ways. Like,
yep.
Devin Hester is one of the most famous NFL players in the world. Now, kick returning was his big thing,
right.
Kick and punt returning. But he came into the league as a corner, couldn't really make it. His return skills kept him on the team, and then he became a receiver and was a fairly solid receiver for Chicago for a long time. I think there's a huge advantage as some of those skill players learning both sides of the ball. All right. Do you got anything else for the Woodbury game? You can go back.
No, I think.
Unfortunately, we don't have any stats for Woodbury. They didn't.
I think we are. Oh, also, I do want to go back on a note. The windows were closed in the booth, and there was some stray chatter. We hope that some of that did not offend anyone. I was told that there was a couple of swears dropped. That was not us.
It's tough to work with the environment that you're in.
So we're sorry. We're sorry if that caused a problem for anybody. We will hope that does not happen again. But once again, that is kind of out of our control.
All right. So moving on to the scoreboard from around 6A. Instead of running through all of them, I'm just going to run through the top 10 ranked teams. Currently, right now, your Rangers sit ranked number 3 in 6A. I believe that they were number 6 in the standings based on strength of schedule and a bunch of different factors that go into that. But so we'll go to number 1 Maple Grove taking on number 8 Edina. Maple Grove all over Edina, 33-7. Number 2 Minnetonka taking on Prior Lake, 33-15. Obviously, your number 3 ranked Rangers, 51-0 over Woodbury. Number 4 Shakopee loses out to Rosemount, 17-10. So an upset there.
That's a big upset right there.
Going off the back of that one to another big upset. Number 5 Centennial upset by Andover, 22-16. Number 6 Eden Prairie took it to STMA, 37-13. Number 9 Moorhead over Wayzata in a close one, 28-27. And lastly, Lakeville South beats Farmington. Lakeville South ranked 10, Farmington ranked 7, 35-6. But the ones that we care about the most right now is our conference games. Stillwater, it was a week of conference games throughout. Stillwater played Mounds View, beat them 37-14, and Eastridge beat White Bear Lake 21-14. And that's one to highlight because our next game is against the bitter rival, the White Bear Bears, and the battle for the paddle in White Bear.
And then we follow up Eastridge right after that.
Correct. Yeah. So that definitely one to look into. What do you got for White Bear? Do you want me to start?
Well, I just want to go back into the scores and a little thing about all of them. And if you've watched the broadcast and you've watched our podcast, you kind of know that point differential is a big thing on seeding. Mm-hmm. And the last 2 games, Forest Lake's point differential has definitely, improved, and like people at home are like, why is a shutout such a big deal? Well, if you heard a lot of those scores, in the 5 to 7 to 9 range, all of those are going to be in your brackets, and all of those guys, even like Andover, who is not ranked but has beat a ranked team and then came close to Wayzata, who is also a ranked team. So these are unranked teams that'll be in your bracket, but definitely are along the same lines of talent as some of these teams that are ranked in the top 6. Usually your top 6 are probably going to be the tops in their brackets. You're probably going to have 1 or 2 outliers that are going to be in the same bracket, but it's something that you want to make sure that you take care of business on every game, and every point that you can put up matters, and every point that you can save from not getting on the board matters. So great job to the Rangers for pitching 2 shutouts in a row, also taking care of business on offense, and really putting a big difference in that point differential.
The only other team that has a point differential on par with Forest Lake right now is Minnetonka, who also sit plus 30. And
Minnetonka has done it against some solid teams as well.
100%.
So the last 2 weeks we kind of padded our stats with teams that wouldn't be considered in the top 10, but Minnetonka has played 2, I believe, of the teams that are in the top, or were in the top 10 at the time.
Yeah. Looking at their schedule now, I mean, Eastridge, STMA, Moorhead, and Prior Lake. At the time, Moorhead was 9. And I believe they are still sitting about there, but right. They've all been pretty commanding victories so far this season. So being able to be in any statistical category that aligns with Minnetonka or, say, Maple Grove are things we want to be matched up with. And right now, the only unbeaten teams in Class 6A is Maple Grove, Minnetonka, and Forest Lake. So while we're on the topic of the point differential thing right now, just as a stat and how the season's been going for them, White Bear. So we are currently sitting at 30. White Bear is sitting at plus 2. So they've played in a lot more, I guess you could say, closer matchups, I guess. And
well, that doesn't exactly mean it. You can get blown out and then you can get blown out.
And
then,
you know what? I misspoke because that is looking the way. Their first game against Park Cottage Grove, 28-14. Coon Rapids 30-14, and then they lost to Farmington 22-6, and they lost to East Ridge 21-14. So
right. So it's
they had
basically
a couple,
they're playing 50-50 ball and about the same point differential either way.
Yeah.
Which is, fairly similar for point differential. And really, when you start getting into unbeaten teams, that's where point differential really starts to stack up. Like, just because you don't lose games and you don't go negative on that game for point differential. But
so White Bear this week. Do you have any thoughts to start?
well, my thoughts to start are always this team is basically relying on the defense a lot, and with the linebacking crew that we definitely gave all the props to, our defensive line and our corners doing an amazing job. It's tough to say that hey, this team is really something that we got to worry about. You never want to look past a team, never, because any team can beat anybody. Like, as we've seen, the Rosemount squad, you would have never guessed that they were going to beat Shakopee there, ranked number 4.
Yeah.
That was, and that can be just a thing where, hey, you're just looking past them. Also, that game there was bad weather. You never know what's going to happen with bad weather. The ball bounces one way or the other, a fumble here or there.
Well, and we saw that with just not being able to hold on to the ball with like the Woodbury kids, just giving the ball up. Speaking of giving the ball up, White Bear currently sitting with, I believe the last time I looked was 6 fumble recoveries. So they have, it looks like they are doing the Isaiah Rogers peanut punch over at White Bear, which is something that the boys will have to figure out for this week, because that's going to be a huge deal here, especially running anywhere in the area of Teddy St. Martin here. So you got 3 forced fumbles on the season. We can't be giving up turnovers the way that some of these other teams have. Luckily, Forest Lake has not struggled very much with turnovers. But that's something to definitely go into the week with, knowing that when you come through the line of scrimmage, you got to keep that ball high and tight, cover up with 2 hands, and keep that close to your chest. Luckily, early weather predictions for Friday doesn't look like it's going to be a weather game that we got to worry about.
70 and sunny is what they say for game time.
Let's keep our fingers crossed and knock on wood for our broadcast sake.
Yes,
but
we will,
as well as the play on the field.
We will be setting up in the stands at White Bear Lake. Yep. So we are hoping for really good weather. Also, less wind than the Anoka game.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to a good game. Once again, I expect the defense to really hold its own, and I would expect a low-scoring game for White Bear. And then it just depends on what the White Bear defense does to Forest Lake as far as the offense. They know we're going to run the ball. Of course we're going to run the ball. That's what we do.
Well, right now they're giving up just under 165 yards rushing per game, and Forest Lake is averaging 242 yards per game.
Right.
So I'm thinking we got a shot there.
And that's the 160 average playing some other teams that, the defense is nowhere close to what.
Yeah, we walked through a couple of those. I mean, if you're averaging giving up 164 in Park Cottage Grove is one of them.
Right.
You gotta do some looking through those stats. On the flip side, passing the ball, Forest Lake only averaging 80 yards passing per game, but that's effective yards as we look at stats. We'll get into White Bear's quarterback here. I'm going to wait until Friday to get a good pronunciation on that name, because I'm going
to say Stachowiak. Stachowiak. That's what I'm going to go with. Oh, no.
No.
Okay.
Anna Munson. Animason.
Animason. That's what my guess would be. Animason.
Animason is he's pretty on par with Connor as far as yards and touchdowns go. He does have an interception. He's got 4 instead of 5 touchdowns. He's sitting just under that 500 mark. However, they've thrown the ball 79 times and only completed it 32.
Right. At 40% completion rate, that's nowhere close to the efficiency that Connor Johnson and the Force Lake offense is.
Surgical.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost an exact flip. Well, it's more than a flip because Connor is at 72?
83. The stat I had pulled up earlier, I should clarify. Connor has attempted 36 passes, not 38, because I was going off of team stats. So we got Alex Sanchez in there.
Oddly enough, about 4 of those incompletions were last week when they were trying
swing passes. There's only really been one miss, and that was the Rayfield one down the seam.
Right.
So he hasn't. Connor's sitting at 320 as far as yards go, but for his production as far as completing the ball, I mean, those stats, a couple more good games, and those stats will jump right back up to be on par with White Bear with half the attempts.
Right. And Connor Johnson has 5 touchdowns where Animason has 4. Also, Animason has an interception in there where Connor Johnson does not. So as far as if you were to stack passing attacks against each other, clearly they do it more. But they probably don't do it against the quality of defensive line and linebacking crew, as well as our secondary that Force Lake has. So it's going to be like paddling upriver for the battle for the paddle
for White Bear.
Yeah. And this is one that you want to come out and set a tone right away. And I think the battle for the paddle really puts this in. You're at a rival at their home stadium. There's a bit of a rivalry that goes back, years with White Bear. Even though the games haven't been nearly as close the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think the closest game we've had with White Bear in recent memory was the first win for the paddle back in 2017 was decided in like the last 30 seconds of the game.
Right.
But past that, it has not been. There were like 4 years after that we didn't play White Bear, but the games since we've come back, Force Lake has handily been, in control of that series. And I know that White Bear is probably wanting it to go back the other way, so this is definitely not one. I mean, on paper, do the Rangers look like a better team? 100%. But we see it all the time in all aspects of football, whether it be college, pros, whatever. Those division games and the rivalry games are always way closer than they would appear on paper. And that's just because there's a lot of energy and momentum.
You never look past the team.
Correct.
Just look at the Packers.
Yeah.
Sorry. I had to get my dig in there.
Real quick, only because you asked about it last week, and there's probably a handful of parents and players and everything that don't know the whole story behind the paddle. I'll give a quick synopsis. So the White Bear coaching staff and one of the older staffs for the Rangers were friendly. I believe I don't want to say that they were both carpentry teachers, but I know that Jerson was. And Jerson decided, Coach Jerson, he was a carpentry teacher here at Force Lake and the offensive coordinator for the Rangers for a long time. He made this paddle by hand in the wood shop here at the school. It's got the Ranger Force Lake wood grain or wood burned in the one side, and on the flip side, it's got the outline of White Bear with their logo on it. And then each time a team wins the paddle, the record gets burned into the handle going up the shaft of the paddle, and it's just kind of become a traveling trophy, kind of like the Bunyan axe between the Gophers and the Badgers. And I think it's only added a little bit of extra pizzazz into that rivalry. And I believe it was the first year that we made it, Jerson was all fired up. He just spent all his time building this paddle. Do not give it up. And we went and gave it up right away in year one. And then I believe that they had it for one more year. I think that they had it for 2 years. But then in 2017, it was the last time that we were going to play White Bear for the foreseeable future. And there was just the war cry, go get the paddle. And that game was won by the Rangers. That also broke the losing streak that was happening here. Like 4 seasons in a row without a win. I think it might have been longer than that. So a lot of losses in a row. There was a lot of emotion that went into that game, and being able to be part of that game was pretty special too. But won that paddle back, and so far since winning it back in 2017, it has not gone back to White Bear. And so hopefully we get to display it back in the trophy case here next Monday.
Yeah, I mean, let's keep it here, and everything that you can hold in the trophy case, you can walk by. Everybody can walk by and have their own story as they go through. Hey, my brother was on that team, or whatever. Like just the history of all of those.
All the players on that team got posters from that game, and mine's still hung up in the garage. Nice. I look at it every day.
Nice. And I mean, it means a lot. And you know that White Bear, since you have that rivalry, like the U of M and Wisconsin always play tough for, the battle for the axe, and the battle for the pig between Iowa. There's a whole bunch of those, and it's a good story. And now that you're back in 6A together, because you guys were in different different divisions for a while, so it hasn't been. It kind of got put on hold, but now that it's back, definitely don't want to look past anybody, and hopefully they're walking to the 50 at the end, and don't have to give up the paddle, because that is something you do not want to relinquish.
No, not at all. Love to see it stay as long as possible. I guess getting back to some of the White Bear stuff and just stuff to look out for. Brian White seems to be the main running back for White Bear this year. And again, this is where on paper are the stats better for White Bear. At a surface level, kind of looks like it. 339 yards. He's got more rushing yards than anybody on the Rangers. He's got 61 attempts. And Mac has 248 on 26 carries the entire season. So,
but that is not the big story. Anamasan.
Oh yeah, their quarterback.
Their quarterback. He is a running quarterback. He's got 40 attempts, 303 yards, 7.6 average, 3 touchdowns, and 1 fumble. So if you're looking at rushing yards per game, Brian White looks like he's getting a ton and 113 yards per game, but it looks like Anamasan is kind of rolling out in that, in the red zone, and probably getting quite a few of those touchdowns, and definitely a very capable runner. So that's one thing that, we're definitely gonna hold contain with the linebackers and the defensive line.
And that's what I was gonna say. I think the difference between last week and this week is Snuggerud, we saw it countless times, pressure, and he'd step up or roll out and keep his eyes downfield trying to make a play. And whether it was just good coverage or somebody chasing down from behind. I don't think we're going to get that out of this quarterback. As soon as he starts feeling pressure, that ball is going to come down, get tucked away, and he's going to be trying to get upfield. And yeah, like you said, keeping the linebackers in a spot, maybe spying one of them, trying to keep him under wraps. Because, yeah, with 303 rushing yards on the season, Connor's had a pretty good year on the ground, but he's not touching any of those stats. As far, yeah, Connor's 36 carries for 140. So those two guys, I think, are going to be the big ones that we got to watch out for. They got a couple of receivers that are over 100 yards. Antonio Brown plays for the White Bear Bears.
Wow, AB plays for the Bears.
He went back to high school, I guess. Their third leading receiver, Colton Butts, looks to be their number one receiver, 154 yards on 8 receptions and a touchdown. So, I mean, there's going to be some good matchups in the secondary, but I think the biggest thing is going to be if our secondary plays as good as they have the past couple games, it's just going to be those linebackers not over-pursuing, Howie coming off the edge, applying pressure, and getting Adamason down in the backfield and not letting him get upfield.
Yeah, and I mean, I think our corners, if we were going to have a multiple interception game, I think that this is the one where if you can get pressure on him and they're behind, he's probably going to be passing just because the amount of pass attempts that they've had when they have been behind, they're probably throwing the ball a lot just to try and get back in the game. And it looks like he's not afraid to throw it. So, you know, I would expect that. And, you know, while you're under pressure, with this Forest Lake defense being super, super aggressive and going after the turnovers, I would not be shocked if you know, you come out with 1 or 2 interceptions on the night.
Yeah. So flipping over to the Forest Lake offense and what you think they need to do.
Well,
what would be your keys to the game?
Forest Lake Freightliners are always a key to the game.
100%.
You know, even when Mac was out, they were opening up holes, and Richley came in, you know, next man up, and he definitely came in and did very well. Also, Drago up the middle. Those yards right up the middle are really tough to get, and our center and guards are doing a great job sealing off those backside linebackers, so they can't really pursue and not get big hits on our running backs up the middle. You know, our tackles have been doing a great job on the outside, sealing the outside, so Mac and Westman can find the edge. And I don't know, I really think that it's just a situation where last week was the test drive of the diesel, and this week the deuce will be loose.
We're taking the governor off.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think
get chipped up in that diesel.
I 100% agree with everything you're saying there, right up the middle. It doesn't, the past 2 weeks, it doesn't seem to matter who's running the ball, but running between the tackles has been a very open option for the Rangers. Weeks 1 and 2, you know, Mac was pretty good, but Drago up the middle was superb. And Connor has always been pretty good, but he has that extra second to kind of look for the hole and dart through it. But the last couple weeks, even Richley, just especially last week, Richley came with a different fire last week of just, I don't care who's in front of me, I'm just going to run through them instead of just trying to juke around them and everything. I think Richley kind of found that strength, and hopefully he comes into this game with that same confidence of I'm just going to run over whoever's in front of me, because he ran for 14.3 yards attempt against Woodbury.
And that's the thing where Evan Richley came in. He came in relief of Mac in the Prior Lake game, and then his first start was Anoka, and then, you know, he in the last couple of games, like he knew he was going to be the guy in the Park game, and that was kind of his like, oh wow, and he started to come into his own. The Anoka game, I want to say he ran a little bit more tentative in the Anoka game, and then he opened it up in the park game, and now he's like, give me the ball. I want the ball.
Mhm.
Like it's one of those things where you just get used to the big lights. You get used to the pressure. Also, just the preparation of, hey, I know, like you can, people that are as backups, you can completely go at practice a completely different way when you know that you're not probably going to play. Like, hey, I know it is what
Yeah.
it is,
Yep.
but when you're really locked in, when you know that everything is riding on you to make the play, and that's one thing that I think he really, you might see that as, because he's an underclassman, you know, maybe wasn't going into taking it super serious. And I'm not saying that that's what happened, but just you're not used to the level of preparedness that you need if you've never done it.
Yeah, you can take and the biggest thing is, I think, regardless of prep, is just chemistry.
Yeah.
And
Timing.
obviously, through the first couple of weeks, Mac's taken all the, I'd say 90% majority with the ones. And then Richley's got to get in there and get his timing down all of a sudden. He's got a week to do that. I mean, that's tough for everybody.
And this team does do a lot of pulling, the guards and the tackles. And for a running back to know, hey, it's going to take this guy about this time to get there. In practice, you can say you're running 100%, but a lot of times you're not running at game speed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the last couple of weeks, we've talked about it multiple times today already, but I think a huge part of it lands on B-Scout, of just the preparation that, I'm getting more and more confident that, I mean, we've seen it with the Vikings this year. A handful of players go down, and all of a sudden you're getting boat raced by the Atlanta Falcons. KOC is a great coach, but I think I'm gaining a ton of confidence in the idea that we have a less chance of that happening to our Rangers with the way the V-Scout is getting the boys prepared throughout the week. And he's got no problem making adjustments to make his players look better. And we've seen it through the defense and through the offense. We've been very good the last 2 weeks, granted, against some not great competition, but
you can only play who's on the schedule.
Correct. Yeah. And I think it's getting valuable experience for any of these guys going down the road into the season, and only building confidence for the fans, the coaching staff, everybody is buying in week by week, play by play, and game by game. I think I'm very excited to see
I'm expecting
how the rest of the season plays out.
I'm expecting big things. We got White Bear Lake coming up. We got East Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Stillwater. I believe that's the order, right? Or is there one more in between there?
Let's double check. I
think it's...
I don't know why it does this all the time.
Pretty sure it's East Ridge, and then...
Everybody's yelling at their computer right now. Yeah. Okay. So Whiteberry, Eastridge, Mounds View, Stillwater. So we kind of run the gauntlet here at the end of the season. But the other thing is, every single one of these teams that we have to play the rest of the year they've had games where they look very vulnerable.
And they've also had games that they've played other teams that are pretty good, tough.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a great test through the rest of the season. And I think if you could pull out, obviously undefeated would be the expectation and the way that we want to go about it. But if you pull 3 out of 4 of these games out, especially the last 2 between Mounds View and Stillwater, not saying Mounds View is an unbelievable team this year, but I think getting that bad taste out of our mouth for how that game went last year, and then beating Stillwater again for the second year in a row, going into the playoffs, would accrue so much momentum for this team.
Well, we played Mounds View the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And we beat them here at home in the rain in a I believe that was an overtime game.
I believe it was as well. Yeah.
The year prior to that was the Phantom touchback.
Yeah.
Terrible game where we lost by like 7, and we should not have probably dropped that game. That was just really run of bad luck. And then last year we got boat raced in Mounds View, and probably the worst game that I've seen this Forest Lake team play. So you never know what you're going to get. It's most likely it's going to be a close game between Mounds View, East Ridge. They're playing teams tough, and Stillwater. Stillwater's not the team that they were 2 years ago, but you can't ever look past any of these conference opponents.
I think we'll get a great idea of what kind of team East Ridge is this week after we play White Bear. East Ridge beat White Bear last week 21-14, so I think how well White Bear does against us and our defense will kind of give us a broader picture of what that East Ridge matchup's going to look like. But out of the 4 games, like I said, 3 out of 4 would be great, but I don't see a reason that all 4 of these teams wouldn't be beatable.
Right.
And,
absolutely.
I mean, our preseason predictions say the same thing. So, yeah, like I said, I'm just really excited for tomorrow's matchup and then the last 3, and I'm beating on the drum. We're gonna make some noise in the playoffs this year.
All right. Well, a couple of things.
Yeah.
A couple of things as far as admin things. We do have a stream contest.
Yeah.
For a shout out for the furthest Forest Lake fan watching our stream. Right now, you got to beat Collinsville, Illinois. So tell us, if you see us out next week at White Bear while you're in the stands, if you see us setting up, just come on up and say, "Hey, we got somebody from New York or we got somebody from Hawaii watching us," and we'll give them a shout out. Also, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that bell so you know when this podcast and all others will be on. Last week we tried to run it before the game. This week that is not possible. We will not be running this pre-game because we are remote. We are in White Bear. Also, make sure you send out the podcast to everybody you know that other
and
parents.
And the stream link when it comes up.
And the stream link when it comes up, because as more people get on those streams and watch this video, if other people have liked and subscribed, it shows up in their feed. So we appreciate those big thumbs up, the likes and subscribes. That also helps us get more viewership, and that pushes this out to more Forest Lake people that are a fan of Forest Lakes Area TV. Also, if you know people, hey, we're playing you guys next week. If you know people in White Bear and they want to see our broadcast, we try and be. I mean, we are Forest Lake broadcasters. We are Forest Lake broadcasters, and we're not. We try and be as unbiased as possible while still planting the flag. I mean, somebody. We got PA over here, and then I'm Bursich. But so it's one of those things that we try, and we do get a lot of viewership from other teams. Like, so if we're playing East Ridge or and all of the East Ridge parents don't want to come in, they tune into our stream. Just remember, they're all welcome, and send them to our stream as well.
Yeah.
So
that's all I got.
Well. Go Rangers, and the battle for the paddle will be decided tomorrow.
So, thank you for watching, and we will see you at the White Bear High School Sports Complex. What do they got? White Bear High School Stadium. See you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.